Hey Omnibus Collectors, it's Riley and I'm back with another Omnibus of the Week. This time I'm going to be talking about a really recent release that Marvel just had, and it's something that I had been looking forward to quite a bit since it was announced, and even before then when I was really hoping that it would happen, and that is Uncanny X-Men Volume 3. This is the third Omnibus edition collecting a chunk of Chris Claremont's material. This one not only has a good chunk of 20-something issues of the ongoing series, but it also has a lot of really important kind of auxiliary stuff that he did as well for the X-Men, including the 4-issue Wolverine miniseries with Frank Miller, the 4-issue Magic miniseries, and the God Loves, Man Kills original graphic novel. Plus there's some other stuff in there as well. So it makes it out for a really nice, rounded out, thick omnibus volume. I think the biggest of the three so far. And it's also got a really good spread of important material as well. In the ongoing series we have, I believe, the first appearance of the New Mutants. We get a lot of cool artwork from Paul Smith, and there's also a bunch of stuff with the Brood, a bunch of things with the Starjammers as well. So there's a lot of really cool and a lot of cool stories that wound up being in there, but I'm not going to talk so much about the stories themselves that much, and I'm not going to talk so much about the quality of the material in there, because I think I'd just be repeating myself, because I'd say the same thing every time I'm talking about Claremont, but also because I talked about these stories in particular already in a X-Men readathon video that I did back last year. So I'll have a link for that. If you want to see me talking about the stories in particular, I will have that link down there so you can see that. But anyway, I'm just really excited about this book. It's something that I've been really looking forward to for a very long time. It was announced last January that they were actually doing this after about 2 years of break since they had released the second omnibus, and before the second omnibus there was like a ridiculously long amount of time between the first and the second, like 8 years or something. So I was really excited to see them finally release this volume, because this is some material that has not been reproduced in oversized format, and the only places that these issues, a lot of this material has been reprinted before, is either in the Masterworks books, which y'all probably know I don't collect those. I prefer the oversized format, and then also the Essentials books, I believe, collected some of these issues, the Essentials of course being the old black and white paperbacks. So it was a really big thing for X fans, especially people like myself and a lot of you guys out there I know who have been trying to collect all of Claremont's run across the oversized hardcovers, because this fills in a really pretty nice looking chunk of material. So anyway, I'm gonna get into it. We'll look at the book and talk about the material that's in there and how the book looks itself, the make of the volume, and what kind of bonus materials are in there. So let's go on and check it out. All right, and there she is. So there were two covers that came out for this volume. The first one, this is the regular cover. It's new artwork by Jerome Opeña. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at that. We got the Brood on there, Storm in her punk rock clothes, a bunch of the other X-Men, Kitty Pryde, Wolverine and the Hand Ninjas, that's Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, and then of course it says all the creators who are inside it. So the other cover was actually a classic cover with artwork by Paul Smith. I decided to go with this cover because for me the outside doesn't really matter, like the dust jacket, especially because the spine on these volumes are going to be exactly the same. The back cover on each of them, each edition, is also the same. But the spine is really the thing that matters for me. If the spine was a little different, if it featured like some weird design on there, then I probably would have gone with the other one. But the fact that they were both the same made it not really matter to me. And I know that the variant cover with the classic artwork is more difficult to grab. Those usually go, they have less copies of those actually made. They go a lot faster. So I figured, if I don't care about the material that's on the cover, which cover it is, classic or the regular one, the Opeña one. I know there are people who do. There are people who really want that classic one, and I figured, I'll go ahead and get this one so that someone who really cares about grabbing the Paul Smith variant cover can have that, instead of me having it someone who doesn't really care one way or the other. And I really love this Opeña cover. Opeña is one of my favorite modern artists. He did some really great work with Rick Remender on Uncanny X-Force and other series with him, and then he did some good work on Jonathan Hickman's Avengers. So I'm really a fan of this cover. Really great artwork. I really want to have, it would be a sick poster. I think it would be really, really awesome. Anyway, look again at the back real quick. Of course, we have just a little roll of all the different covers that are in there. So we get a bunch of issues of Uncanny X-Men, and then there's Uncanny X-Men Special Edition, God Loves Man Kills, the Wolverine miniseries, the Magic miniseries, and then there's some annuals and stuff in there as well. As it says here, collecting Uncanny X-Men 154 to 175, X-Men Annual 6 to 7, Special Edition X-Men 1, Graphic Novel 5, which is God Loves Man Kills, Wolverine 1 through 4, and Magic 1 through 4. So there's a really nice amount of material in this volume, rounding out a lot of really, really good material. So this is a pretty significant chunk of material, and that material is some of the best stories of this era on the X-Men. But then again, all of Claremont's run is some really good stories. The inside flap here, 2 short years packed with too many X-Men classics to count. So pretty much like I said, there's a lot of really classic storylines that are within this volume. And then on the back flap, we have creator profiles for Claremont, Cockrum, Paul Smith, Brent Anderson, and Frank Miller. Just giving a little bit of a rundown on some material that they've done if you weren't already familiar with these creators. And then we'll take a look at some of the inside pages at the front. Of course, it was Corey Settlemyer who did this volume. He's been working on, I believe he did the last 2 Uncanny X-Men Omnibus volumes as well. So a lot of stuff about who worked on this collection. That's one of my favorite covers, mostly because I'm a huge Kitty Pryde fan. And then here's a rundown of the different creators and the content inside the book, including writer, all the pencilers, the inkers, different letterers, colorists, and then of course Weezie Simonson as the editor. The cover is Jerome Opeña and Dean White, and then Paul Smith does the variant. And then the people who were working on restoration of the artwork, and then some special thanks to some other people down there. And then some contents pages listing the order of all the contents. I really like these types of contents pages where it lists not only what page each one of these issues is on, but it also gives us the date that each story was published and the title of each issue. So, you know, Uncanny X-Men 163, November 1982, was titled Rescue Mission. The only thing that would have made it even better would have been if it listed which artists worked on which issues, but that is over here, so that's not a big deal. Also, it shows us that there's 1, 2, 3 different essays, I guess you'd say, written by Louise Simonson. And then there's, at the back, there's going to be some entries from the official handbook to the Marvel Universe, 1 through 15, from January 83 to May of 84. That's some bonus material. And then, yeah, so the first little intro essay from Weezie, and then we jump right into issue 154 of the X-Men. All right, and then we jump to the back, and starting with page 928 is the bonus material, all the back matter. Is actually a pretty decent amount of back matter in this volume. Like I mentioned from the contents page, this starts with a bunch of material from the handbook to the Marvel Universe. So alphabetically we're going through each one of the characters, starting with Angel, going to Arcade, Ariel, Beast, Binary, Blob, the Brotherhood, New Brotherhood, Cannonball, Colossus, Cyclops. So basically they're just giving us a rundown of every single mutant and all the different villains and stuff that have appeared throughout the series so far to this point, including a lot of nice artwork from different artists, John Romita Jr., Bob McLeod, Kerry Gamble, Mike Grell. So a lot of good artwork from a bunch of different artists in there. And it even goes back and has some of the earlier characters who maybe had not appeared for a while. So this is a pretty nice little chunk of material to have in this book, a nice little representation, and good to have for any, you know, fan of the X-Men. So I'm just going to flip through these things, get to the back of those, and then we have a look at, we get all the X-Men here, the New Mutants, their allies, the X-Men mansion. So you get a look at the area where the mansion is, kind of the terrain, a topographical map, and then we get a map showing us the architecture of the building and what each of these rooms is. And then the Blackbird, the X-Men's jet, and then we get a look at the, it says here, the alien races, so the Brood and all that kind of stuff. Then it goes to a list of inactive and deceased members of the team as of this point. Look at Cerebro, Cyclops' visor, the Sentinel, Wolverine's skeleton, talks about adamantium. So that's a really good, that's the last page of that. That's a really good chunk of material, just kind of giving us information about these characters. Really nice for fans to have. I'm really glad that they inserted all that, because that's a really nice amount. It's like, what, 60, 70 pages? This is page 992. I don't remember where we started. I think it was like 920 something. Yeah, 928. So it's almost 70 pages worth of material from those Marvel handbooks. That's a really nice extra to stick in the back of this book. And then, of course, no omnibus would be complete without some nice sketches, original pencil and ink. From some of the older issues here, we get some nice material from Dave Cockrum. Unused cover art from Paul Smith. X-Men Chronicles 1, Amazing Heroes 12, Marvel Comics Index 9A. So just a lot of nice pin-ups and whatnot back here. One by Bill Sienkiewicz, Butch Juice. Nice Kitty one from Butch. A Wolverine one. It's a really nice one from Brent Anderson. The God Loves, Man Kills cover art from one of the editions of that. Introduction of God Loves, Man Kills from Chris Claremont from the 2003 reprint. I believe all of this was in the premiere hardcover edition that came out. That classic line that has since been defunct. This is actually a really interesting little article. I remember reading this back when I got that edition of the book. So a lot of cool stuff about God Loves, Man Kills in the back of this book. Some more pencil work. This is from Neil Adams, from some unused pages. A lot of nice looking work in there, but that didn't make it out, obviously. And then the old cover for the 87 trade paperback of Wolverine. Introduction afterwards from the Wolverine paperback. And then there's Classic X-Men number 22, cover by Frank Miller. This is the Steve McNiven variant for the long out-of-print Wolverine Omnibus. The trade paperback cover for From the Ashes by Arthur Adams. Promotional material about the Magic miniseries, and then this is from the Magic hardcover, an intro by C.B. Cebulski. And then a cover gallery of the X-Men Classic issues, which were reprints of Claremont's issues. So these were holding material, reprinting the Uncanny X-Men 174, for instance. And then, let's see, some more covers. These are from Greg Horn over on this side, from the Essential X-Men paperback. Some more art. And then we end with a representation of the Opeña cover here. So there's a really nice amount of bonus material within this book. They definitely did not skimp out on the back matter. And of course I like to open to about the middle of the book just to show you guys how good the binding is. We got the nice eye hole going on right here. It stays open really well. You could see it was staying open whenever I was looking through the back matter. Those last like 100 pages stayed open really easily. The first few pages stayed open really easily whenever I was looking at the opening pages, but it's a really, really solid binding from Marvel. There's a little bit of a detach on my glue, but that's not gonna pose too much of a threat to the binding of the book, and it's easily fixable anyway. But the most important thing is they maintain their really quality glued binding on these books so that it's very easy to relax and enjoy this without it snapping shut on you like a lot of the older DC books. They're fixing that problem now, but a lot of the older ones like Hawkman and stuff have that issue. And of course we have to look at some of the artwork from the inside. I'm just going to highlight a few different issues, a few different pages with art from different artists. This is some work with, of course, during the Brood arc with Dave Cockrum pencil. There's a Wolverine when he was being, I think this was when he was infected by the Brood, but of course his healing factor was fighting that off. Storm against the Brood. Really nice artwork here. And then when the X-Men were finishing up dealing with the Brood, they came back and at the X-Mansion, we would see we would meet the New Mutants. This was actually the cover here that they used for the variant edition by Paul Smith. And fun fact, on my website, that's the cover that I used for my wish list post about this book. Whenever I was saying, you know, what I hope will be my prediction, I guess, of what content is in here, that's the cover that I used. So yeah, I love the New Mutants. I'm really hoping that a New Mutants omnibus is one of the next things that they publish as far as X-Men related omnibus go. So we get some nice work here, the introduction of the New Mutants to the X-Men. This is the first time that they become aware of the younger mutants that are in the mansion. And I want to skip around and get up to the God Loves, Man Kills, because there's a lot of really nice stuff by Brent Anderson in here. These Marvel graphic novels always had really, really high production values. Not only was there great just pencil art, but great inking and great coloring went into these books. Some more really nice pages from God Loves, Man Kills. Really good panel work. And then we get into one of my favorite spreads with Kitty. And then moving forward, we get into the Wolverine miniseries, which is interspersed exactly where it would take place in the series chronologically, because there is a point where Wolverine announces his departure. So this is happening in the right order, basically. So of course, this is Frank Miller's artwork, and it's very noticeably different from what we see from Frank Miller now in more current comics that he's done. Even if you look at like Sin City from the 90s and stuff, his artwork there is significantly different than it is here. But you can see some of in his layouts, the faces that he draws, kind of the early representation of what his artwork would become. So there's really interesting panel layouts and use of negative space, which was not as common, obviously, like looking at some of the other artwork in this book at that time. So that's something that really made this miniseries and Frank Miller as an artist stand out during this point. There's a really nice 2-page spread from Miller from the second Wolverine issue. So it's really clear, you know, having this here, why this was such an influential storyline and why it was so important. And this was really the story that finally took Wolverine and used this character to kind of his fullest potential, or started to use him to the fullest potential, where he'd always just been used as a member of the X-Men. Of course, now he's such an oversaturated character that most people are just tired of it, but at the time, this was a really interesting look at Logan, kind of delving into his psyche and delving into him as an individual and not just as a part of the team, and why he is so different from the rest of the X-Men. And then, of course, spoilers for, you know, a 30-some-odd-year-old storyline. Wolverine comes back from Japan after that storyline, and we see the little wedding arc play out. And then at the back of the book, after another chunk of Uncanny X-Men issues, we get to the Magic miniseries. This focuses on the time period where in one of the previous issues we see Illyana kind of slip into another dimension, and when she pops out, she's aged about 7 years, I believe, and the X-Men are not sure what it was that happened to her, and she has a completely different attitude and stuff. So this miniseries, this 4-issue miniseries, showed us what happened when she slipped into that other dimension, what happened to her, how she changed, and all that stuff. So it was John Buscema who did the artwork on this. It's much more typical, just kind of comic art. It's not, I say that if you were to compare it to like Miller's art from the previous miniseries, it's very standard art for the time. You know, there's no, it's just panel, pretty standard looking stuff, standard looking character design and all that whatnot, but still great art nonetheless. Just wanted to make that comparison to Miller's artwork. The work here, though, it's more of a fantasy series, so you can see how it's a little more fantastical in nature than the other issues where we've seen like sci-fi stories and action stories. This takes place in kind of a fantasy realm. It was a really fun little 4-issue miniseries with a lot of interesting interpretations of some of the characters. It's just a really nice look at Illyana's character, and going back and reading this after you know, I had never read this before, and I read this I think sometime last year for the first time, and knowing Illyana, enjoying her as a character, and seeing kind of how she turned from being the innocent little girl whenever we first see her appear as just, you know, Peter Rasputin's little sister, into being this black magic user who, you know, has these empty eyes, like she's obviously seen something. It explains so much about her character here, and it's a really nice little mini-series. I'm very happy that they added this in here, because it helps to kind of complete the experience when reading the X-Men by Claremont. And then that just brings us to the end of this mini-series, and after this page starts all the back matter. So a lot of really nice artwork throughout this book, a lot of really great stories and content, and it's definitely a book that I highly recommend. So there we have it. That is Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 3 by Claremont, Cockrum, Paul Smith, Miller, and Brent Anderson. So a lot of really cool content in there. A really nicely put together volume with a lot of great back matter. Awesome cover from Jerome Opeña. Just a really awesome book in general. I really am so happy to have this on my shelf. You know, I know a lot of people have already moved on this one, have already gone ahead and bought it. Like right when it came out, they jumped on ordering a copy of it. And I think that this is, what's cool about this is not only is this great for people who are continuing to read the X-Men, who are continuing on with their collection of Claremont's collection after, you know, the first 2 volumes, but this honestly is a great volume to jump into if you just want a really good X-Men book. I honestly could recommend this as a starting point, because there's so many great series or stories within this. The Wolverine, God Loves, Man Kills, the whole From the Ashes story arc is going to be in here. The majority of it is in there, and the Magic miniseries. All these really, really awesome stories are in here that can really give you a great taste of why the X-Men were such a special series during this time under this creative team, under this writer. So I highly, highly recommend this book. Obviously, I am a little bit biased because I'm a huge X-Men fan, but it's a beautifully put together volume, a lot of great material, like I said, and for a pretty good cover price. It's only $125 cover price, which is, it's $25 more than volume 1 or 2 of Uncanny X-Men were, but there's a lot more content. I believe there's a higher, I believe there's a higher page count in this one than there were in the other 2. So that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that this helps you to decide whether or not to go buy this volume. I'm sure most people were already convinced one way or the other. Maybe you're just watching because you wanted some of my commentary on the material within there. If that's the case, then I hope that you are also enjoying this book and enjoying having this on the shelf. Hopefully Marvel gives us a volume 4 pretty soon, sooner than it took between volume 2 and 3. Obviously a lot sooner than what it took between volumes 1 and 2, because I believe that volume 4 would more than likely be the final omnibus to bring us to the not the end of Claremont's era on the series, but a 4th volume would bring us right up to Mutant Massacre, which is where pretty much everything is collected afterwards in oversized hardcover, except for a chunk between Mutant Massacre and Fall of the Mutants. And I've maintained that that should be collected in a Mutant Massacre Aftermath hardcover, similar to the Inferno Prologue hardcover. Anyway, that's enough rambling on my part. Sorry to drivel on like that. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy the book. And please check out my other videos. Check out my site, my Facebook page, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter, wherever. I'll have links to that down below. Just check it all out. I try to be pretty entertaining and informative on all those different outlets. And again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.